Hello, everybody, and welcome to First Tellurium's channel. Just want to let you guys know what we're going to be doing with this video series. We're going to be running through company updates and industry updates, answering any questions you guys have. So if you have any during any of this, don't be afraid to send them over. And we're, of course, going to be introducing members of the team. So who better to kick us off for video number one than President and CEO Tyrone Docherty. Ty, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today, Michael, and yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. What I really like to do to start these out is to get to know you a little bit more, right? Let's talk about the jockey as much as we talk about the horse, okay?
Right.
So first and foremost, tell me about your past experiences. You've got some good wins under your belt, don't you?
I have, yeah. My biggest win to date, I took a company called Quinto Mining with a $4 million market cap in 1997 and was lucky enough to sell it 11 years later for $175 million. And the people that bought us out, we ended up being about 21% of their company, and they sold out 2 years after that for 4.9 billion. So people that were in, we originally ended up being worth enterprise value a little over $1 billion. So that's a nice win, no question about it. And I was 48 at the time, decided I was going to semi-retire, and then this opportunity came by with this phenomenal property called Deerhorn property in British Columbia, which has this tellurium as well as high-grade gold and silver. So it kind of said, well, you know what, it's different than all the rest of them, and you know, maybe this type of mineral will be more valuable in a few years. And not to call myself psychic, but that seems to be what's happened now with all the push towards green metals, and we're very lucky. And I like to try and pretend that I was smarter than I actually was, because when I went for the property, I went at it because of the high-grade gold and silver, and Tellurium just have to come with it. So as much as I like to think I'm smarter than the average bear, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And you know, even without Tellurium, we'd still be a great company, but Tellurium puts us in the forefront for everyone.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm excited to get into this. Like a lot of people in the resource industry, I've worked with a lot of gold and silver related things, but never Tellurium. So I'm excited to hear about the use cases. I know you're right. It is using a lot of green things. I think I heard something about solar panels, but let's digress and go back just a little bit more. Tell me what got you interested in the financial minerals markets in the first place. What is it about it that drew you in?
Well, originally it's because I made a bad investment when I was a young fellow, probably 24, 25 years old, to one of my good friends. His father-in-law was running a company. He said, hey, it's a can't miss. Well, I guess a can't miss did miss, right? So if if these guys can do it, they don't want to call them bozos. If these guys could do it, then maybe we could put a little bit of sandpaper there and figure out what to do and try and at least get our investment back. And we obviously did. And then we just moved forward because when you look around around the world now, and if you actually educate yourself, you realize how important minerals are to everyday life. True. And that's not to disparage the environmentalists, because sometimes they make a great case. All I'm saying is that just because someone says there's mining, you can't just equate it with bad news, because if you don't have mining, then you really don't have a lot of the necessities that you need. So it's fine.
Agreed. I mean, very well said. I mean, at the end of the day, anything you have that's metal has been pulled out of the ground. That's just a fact of how things go. And you're right, it is a balancing act. And you know what? Environmentally, things are getting a lot better, right? Things have came a long way from when people look at mining and think about like the old school Hollywood idea of just destroying absolutely everything to get what you want out of it. Things are getting better. But again, before we stray too far off track, tell me how you became then the president and CEO of First Tellurium, and then tell me what that looks like on the day-to-day. Kind of demystify it a little bit.
Yeah, well, basically, when I sold the company in 2008, and as I say, I was basically semi-retired, a number of people reached out to me, as they do, wanted to find out who the jockey of the horse was. That was interesting. But I try to tell people that, unlike some CEOs, I'm not a geologist or an engineer. I don't go to bed at night dreaming of rock formations or assays. I'm basically a businessman. I am involved in a few other industries, but because of my associations and the contacts that I made over the years, these mining deals seem to have fallen in my lap. So I've had a chance to look at stuff. So one of the groups that came to me had an old dirty shell, if you will, didn't have anything in it, just a bunch of paper. And I said, okay, well, let's see if we can resurrect this one. So that's what got me back into it. And only because of this project that the Deerhorn property in British Columbia is so intriguing, I said, okay, let's have a go at it. And I've been there since 2000, and I believe it's 2009. That I came the president, might be 2008 at the end of 2008 to 2009, became the president, and just sort of run a 2.5 person operation, just like I did when I sold my company for the 175 million. If I need people's help, I contract them. I don't like having a big staff. I don't have a huge office, because one thing I learned, it's either boom or bust in the mining. So if you have a bunch of downtown offices with a whole bunch of extra staff and 4 vice presidents walking around, you got to keep raising the money just to pay salaries. So on my previous deal, I'd go 4, 5, 6 months without taking a salary because the money wasn't there. So luckily, it turned into a bit of a payday for me. So I can do that again if the money's not there, because I don't believe in raising money for the sake of, especially at low prices, if it doesn't have to be done.
Yeah, I mean, people can definitely appreciate that too. A lot of people, don't have to go too far into it, but a lot of people are lifestyle about it, right? Like they're in it for the lifestyle, not opposed to actually getting some resources out of the ground or valuated or anything. So,
well, that's why it took 11 years to sell the other company, is because if you build something real, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to deal with the red tape. You have to deal with the markets, and you have to deal with that. Let's face it, the junior mining space has had a bad reputation and has a bit of a better one now, but still a lot of the fellas there is a lifestyle. It's much easier just to put out a couple news releases and say you're jumping to this mineral or that mineral or whatever the latest thing is. And, they sell their paper, pay their salaries and all that. It's like, but my thought process is, if you build something real, it's almost like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you build a proper company with real assets, real potential, then people will eventually show up. They actually have a check that won't bounce. So when I sold my last company, it was literally less than 10 minutes of negotiation, and that is not a word of a lie. Literally less than 10 minutes of negotiation. It was actually closer to 5. We sold it at I don't know if you follow golf, but we sold it down at the Masters Golf Tournament in 2008. And we were sharing, the brokerage firm in Toronto arranged to rent a house for us there. My brother was involved in the PGA, so he got us 4 passes to the tournament. So we just met down there at Augusta, and on the Saturday night they made an offer, and I countered it, and they agreed. We shook hands and went back to our boards of directors. But it was literally less than 10 minutes. It's probably closer to 5. And because they needed it, I realized it was a good time to sell. My shareholders did well, obviously, as I told you what happened with the share price.
Yeah.
And everyone was happy, because I know some guys like to belabor negotiations for months and months and weeks and weeks. I don't know if that makes them thinking they're any smarter, or they can get every little, dot every I and cross every T. But, you have a basic understanding. The lawyers will figure out how it works, right? And that's it. So we were lucky that we sold out just before the market crashed in 2008. So
that's good
timing is everything.
Look, you time the market, man. That's what everyone's trying to do all the time, right? But it sounds like to me, like I need to get golfing, because that seems to be where all the magic happens. But I think you did a great job so far of walking us through your past, why you're the right man for the job, and kind of talking about your role a little bit. Before we go, is there anything you're really excited to get into in the series? Any idea that you think you can really help people understand about this project?
Oh, absolutely. First and foremost, regardless of what the mineral was, when you can say you're basically the only company in the world that has this, there's certainly a very, you can meet in the phone booth. Mm-hmm. There's no other junior company I'm aware of that has this special mineral called Tellurium. And now that people are understanding with the push for critical metals in the US, and they look and say, okay, who's got it? Well, first Tellurium has it. And not only do we have it, but the properties that we have are superb. And what I like to tell people, Michael, is, people don't have to believe a word I say, because when you do a junior company, people assume, oh, maybe you're not getting the whole truth. So I just say to people, look, don't believe me, go check what the experts say, and they'll find out. So for example, in 2018, we did a preliminary economic assessment, that's PEA, and it said that our property had robust economics. So we put that in our news release, and the Securities Commission called me up and said, you can't use the word robust, it's too promotional. I said, well, it's not my word. It came from the geologist who wrote the report. So they phoned them up and say, did you write it? Yeah. So, okay. And what it was is, so we have 42% IRR after tax. And that was based on $1,300 gold and $17 silver. Now, legally, I'm not allowed to tell people, figure it out. If it was 42% IRR at 1,300 gold, and we're now at 18.5 or 19 gold, whatever, obviously it's even better than that. I'm not legally allowed to say it, but I just say, figure it out. So we have a great property. We picked up a phenomenal property last year in Colorado that was presented to us a couple of years ago. Probably the second richest tellurium property in the world. Used to be owned by First Solar, which we can talk about in a future series. But again, what it comes down to is better to be lucky than good. Like I said, I'm not a geologist, but sometimes these things land in my pocket. And one thing, just to let people off, when I say, you don't have to believe me, we're involved with an indigenous group on a separate project. We own 49% of a First Nations company. They own 51%. They're opening up parts of northern Canada that up until this part haven't been accessible to the white man, so to speak, as they say. But there's a trusting there of our board of directors and the history of my chairman with them. And part of that program, we're involved with a program called Salmon Gold, and I would encourage your viewers to look at it. And that's a program that helps rehabilitate the rivers with the placer miners, cleans up their gold, sells the gold to 2 companies in the United States, and then it reintroduces salmon. So you're saving the environment and no one's allowed to mine it again. Well, those 2 companies in the United States, everyone's heard of, is Tiffany and Company and a little company called Apple. So yeah, and it took 3 months for us to pass the test for Apple to make sure that we weren't the quote unquote usual junior mining promoters, that we actually had some some integrity to us. So they finally gave the okay. So when we put out the news, and Apple and Tiffany, so a few investors phoned up, is this true, or are you just trying to blow smoke to move your paper, so to speak? I said, well, first of all, I never move my paper, as my shareholders complain. I wait for the big deal to come in and buy us out. But second of all, don't believe me, go out and check out the Apple website. And I encourage your viewers to know, just Google Salmon Gold /Apple. And there's a big 2 or 3 page spread on it with my indigenous partner there overlooking the Yukon River. So trust me, Apple don't get involved with companies that are fly-by-night. So they look at who we're involved with, and that's just what happens. And that's why I don't tend to go to mining shows, Michael, because what ends up happening is years ago I went as a younger fellow and I realized that, you're beside someone in a booth that can yell louder than me and tell more fanciful stories. So for the average retail investors, they don't know whether it makes sense or not, but throw in a few words. So I just say, here's what it is. Check out yourself. And if we're lying about Apple, it's the easiest thing in the world to figure out that we're full of crap, and that's not the case. So when we have some other fabulous associations with people and groups that we'll get into farther down the road, but that's why I say to people, to sum it all up, is that not only we have this fabulous mineral called tellurium that no one else has. So, it's better than having 150 competitors like doing graphite or cobalt or lithium. Fine, they're wonderful minerals. But what the advantage it has for lithium ion battery alone is phenomenal, as was recently patented. And it's been used in solar panels by First Solar for the last 20 years. So even if the battery opportunity didn't come, there's a shortage out there right now. So we're just in the right place at the right time. So I know that when you've got all your assets covered, no pun intended, the people come to the door. If they're looking to acquire you or make an investment, they first check to see if there's any weaknesses. And when they realize that, no, we take care of all those, then they have to have dialogue that makes sense, or we just wait for the next guy to come by. And away we go.
Well, listen, so I think it's interesting. So first off, First Tellurium not only has tellurium, but you guys are also first. So the name is very literal.
Yes,
so you really nailed that one on the head. And also you said something which I would always encourage people in any situation where you're going to be moving any money around, which is do your own research. It's all out there online. What we like to do with these videos is be informative, yes, but on top of that, it's opening up as a forum to ask questions. So if you guys have any questions while we're going through any of these series, don't be afraid to ask in the comments below, and we'll happily dive into them. But for now, Ty, I think you again did a great job of walking us through your past, talking about your role, and letting us know what you're excited about. So any last words, last sentences before we go?
No, that's great. Look forward to the next one, and look forward to questions from your viewers.
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned for more coming soon. And Ty, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.